but I thought he did what he could. There's nothing else I think you could have realistically expected of him. What do you think?
Yeah, Kovacic, Brozovic, I think, yeah, they all did their best. At the end of the day, Guardiola was the one who could have done better on a couple goals, but all things considered, Croatia were not a team that you expected to fight back if they went down 1-0. The whole game was dependent on them keeping the game state under control. And that's why I'm so shocked Brazil lost the way they did to Croatia, the way they attacked. Like, you can't be attacking against these guys. So I think they did their best. This is the kind of game where you don't read too much into it tactically or about the players, other than Messi is amazing and Modric was amazing. But this is the kind of game where you kind of accept it's the larger environment of the team that dictated the result. And Julian Alvarez is better than any of the forwards on Croatia.
I
Uh,
I
yeah,
mean, even any forward on the bench, you could like Dybala coming in. I almost forgot Dybala existed on this Argentinian national team. I mean, any player like that. Like to me, the problem with Croatia, and we can take this back to the Brazil game, and maybe it's a little bit opportunistic to talk about it now. Croatia just don't create enough to sustain this. If they were able to pull this one out, it would have been super impressive. I think they created like zero point 0.5 on the XG today, maybe a little bit more. Against Brazil, I think it was 0.66. They just don't create enough. Their ball progression is fine. Brozovic is awesome. Kovacic is awesome. Modric is awesome. They don't have the runners and cutters that some of these big teams do. They don't have the dribbling wingers. They don't have a goal scorer in this team they can rely on. The fact that, like, I think their three best chances, if you can even call them great chances, they all fell to Lovren. It's not a good sign. And that's a huge problem. And I think that there was nothing else Modric could have done, I think. In a vacuum, I thought Modric was awesome. I thought, he had a couple of really great defensive interventions in transition. His ability to resist pressure was great. Distribution was good. He looked vertically. There's nothing else he really could have done. And I think unfortunately for them too, they're down 2-0 at halftime. They start off with a couple changes. Then within 5 minutes, Brozovic gets injured. They shift to a double pivot. And I think that it's okay to have a Kovacic Modric double pivot. I think that they actually function fine from a ball progression standpoint. But they also lost one extra defensive shield to defend those Argentina counterattacks. And it was just way too difficult to dig themselves out of this one.
yeah. The story of this tournament for Croatia for me is how they grew alongside Modric, and someone like Kovacic stepped up into the midfield partner role. Brozovic got better. And yeah, for me, it's a story of how when you have the most press resistant midfield in a knockout competition, you don't have to have attackers to go far. That's really my takeaway. If you have the most press resistant midfield, you can bend the game to being played on your terms to the extent that you reach a World Cup semifinal without being able to score. And that's my takeaway from them. And I think the beauty of knockout football is that a team can have no offense, and still, if you replay that game 10 times, there's probably a few times they win it just because that's the nature of football. That's what I find interesting. And now, of course, we have to talk a little bit about Messi.